The battle had shifted. The swarm, once an unstoppable force, now hesitated, its ships scattered in confusion, struggling to respond to a galaxy that had learned to act together, to think creatively, and to fight with courage. The human transmission had sparked something far greater than inspiration. It had created a movement. Commander Elena Voss watched from the bridge of the Horizon Arc. The screens showed the coalition fleets pressing forward, striking decisive blows and coordinating across systems. Every species, from the smallest scouts to the largest cruisers, acted as one. And every act, every maneuver carried the spark of hope humans had sent across the galaxy. "Commander," Ryan said, his voice tense but filled with excitement. "The swarm is retreating in several sectors. It's not total defeat yet, but they're being pushed back. The galaxy is winning." Elena nodded, her expression steady. "This is what we hoped for. Not just victory, but awakening. The galaxy is learning that courage can overcome despair. The swarm may regroup, but it will never be the same. The galaxy has remembered what it means to fight together." Across countless worlds, news of the coalition's successes spread like wildfire. Systems once resigned to annihilation now sent fleets to join the resistance. Scientists shared technology freely. Engineers repaired ships, and soldiers inspired each other with tales of small victories. The human transmission had become a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest hour, action and hope could change the outcome. In the Alethian Rift, Lyra Venn led her fleet through what had once been a deadly obstacle. Asteroids now shielded them, providing cover as they pressed forward against the swarm. Her crew, once uncertain and hesitant, moved with confidence. Every strike they made was precise, every maneuver daring. They had learned from humans that even the smallest, seemingly ordinary actions could have extraordinary consequences. "Commander," Lyra transmitted to the Horizon Arc, "the swarm is faltering. They are no longer a single force. They are scattered, reacting to every coalition move. Humanity's story, it has inspired more than courage. It has inspired strategy." Elena allowed herself a small, proud smile. "Good work, Lyra. Keep pushing. Remember, our fight is not just about defeating the swarm. It is about showing the galaxy what is possible when hope and unity guide every action." The swarm, sensing the growing resistance, attempted to reorganize. Its command nodes glowed brightly, sending signals across fleets coordinating attacks. But it was too late. The galaxy had already learned the power of improvisation, courage, and collaboration. Every attack it launched was met with unpredictable counters, flanking maneuvers, and clever defenses. Its calculations failed, its precision crumbled, and its once mighty advance slowed to a stuttered retreat. On Talaris, Admiral Clyron stood before his fleet, feeling a mixture of disbelief and awe. "We have survived against impossible odds," he said. "But survival is not enough. We have learned to act together, to believe together. Humanity's story reminded us that courage is stronger than fear. Today we are not just survivors, we are a united galaxy." Across the coalition, similar messages were being sent. Leaders and citizens alike shared the human story, spreading it to corners of the galaxy that had not even received the original transmission. It became a movement, a network of hope connecting worlds, species, and individuals. And with each message, the coalition grew stronger, more confident, more determined. Lyra Venn and her squadron pressed the attack one final time. They targeted the remaining swarm strongholds, using tactics and strategies inspired by the lessons humans had shared. Energy beams cut through enemy ships, shields held firm, and every strike carried the courage of countless species acting as one. In the heart of the conflict, Elena watched the culmination of what the human story had started. The swarm's formation collapsed. Its ships, once a symbol of unstoppable force, now scattered, fleeing the relentless advance of a coalition united by hope. "Commander," Ryan said, his voice full of wonder, "the swarm, they're retreating across all fronts. They're losing." Elena's gaze never wavered from the screens. "Not just losing," she said quietly. "They are learning that the galaxy cannot be controlled by fear. We have changed the course of history. Every life that fights, every act of courage proves that the impossible can be done." As the swarm withdrew, celebrations erupted across the coalition. Worlds that had prepared for annihilation now erupted with relief and joy. Citizens and soldiers alike shared stories of bravery, of survival, and of courage inspired by humans. In every corner of the galaxy, the spark of hope had become a flame, uniting species that had once been divided. On Talaris, Lyra Venn sent a final report to the Horizon Arc. Commander Elena, your story has changed everything. The swarm is retreating and the galaxy stands united. We will continue to fight together, but you have reminded us all what is truly important: courage, hope, and unity. Elena felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The human's transmission, simple and unassuming, had sparked something greater than technology or firepower. It had reminded every species that even the smallest voice could be heard. Even the weakest species could inspire action. And even in the darkest hour, hope could ignite a revolution. Across the galaxy, fleets repaired, rebuilt, and reorganized. Knowledge was shared freely. Species that had once been isolated now communicated openly, exchanging ideas and strategies. Children on countless worlds learned about humanity, not as conquerors, but as a symbol of courage and hope. Elena stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Arc, staring at the stars that had once been under threat. The galaxy has changed, she said to Ryan, and it will never be the same again. We have shown them that hope is more powerful than despair, that courage is stronger than fear, and that unity can overcome any challenge. Ryan nodded, a smile crossing his face. The galaxy will remember this. Humanity. We have inspired more than we ever imagined. Elena's eyes shone with quiet pride. Not just humanity. Every species, every individual has played a part. We were the spark, but the fire belongs to all of them, and that is how hope spreads. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt whole. Wars were not yet over, and challenges remained, but the seed of unity had been planted. The swarm had been forced to retreat, but more importantly, the coalition had discovered its own strength. They had learned to act together, to innovate, and to believe in themselves. And in the heart of it all, humanity's story remained a symbol, a story that showed the galaxy that courage, hope, and unity were not abstract ideals. They were forces more powerful than any weapon. Even in the darkest hour, one voice, one transmission, one act of hope could change everything. Elena and her crew knew that the galaxy's future was not guaranteed. Challenges would come, new threats would rise, and battles would continue. But the lesson of the human transmission endured. No species was truly alone. Even in despair, action and hope could create change. The Horizon Arc drifted through space, a quiet witness to the transformation it had helped inspire. Across countless worlds, fleets repaired, citizens celebrated, and leaders worked together. The galaxy had been saved not just by weapons, but by courage, creativity, and a single story that reminded all beings that even the smallest voice could matter. As Elena looked at the stars, she whispered to herself, "When all hope was lost, we did not give up, and now, the galaxy will never forget." The human transmission had done more than inspire. It had changed minds, hearts, and actions. It had sparked unity and courage across countless species. The galaxy, once on the brink of despair, now stood stronger, wiser, and more hopeful than ever before. And so, humanity's story became legend, not for conquest, not for power, but for reminding the galaxy that hope is unstoppable, courage is contagious, and a single act of determination can change the course of history. The galaxy was alive again, and for the first time in ages it looked to the stars with hope, knowing that even in the darkest times light could always return. The stars over the Andromeda cluster shone like scattered diamonds across the dark velvet of space. Amid this calm beauty, a storm was brewing, a storm of fire, steel, and determination. The Xylarian Empire, an alien civilization famed for its vast fleets and perfect strategy, had set its sights on New Terra, one of the brightest human colonies in the sector. Queen Zira, ruler of the Xylarians, stood at the command bridge of the flagship Eclipse of Dawn. Her golden eyes, sharp as the edges of her empire's warships, scanned the holographic display of the cluster below. Thousands of Xylarian vessels surrounded New Terra like a predatory net. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, sleek, nearly indestructible, bristling with weapons that could vaporize an entire city in minutes. "Prepare the final assault," Zira commanded, her voice calm but commanding. "No survivors, no mercy. Humanity will kneel, as it always does, before superior power." Her officers bowed, their motions precise, almost robotic. To them, victory was certain. To them, humans were a weak species, fragile and predictable. But humans, Zira had learned in small encounters, were neither. Thousands of light-years away, on the surface of New Terra, the calm of the planet's twin oceans and green continents belied the panic that raged above. Civilian fleets scrambled, their pilots brave but outnumbered. On the command bridge of the human defense flagship Resolve, Admiral Alara Dane studied the Xylarian formations, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They've cut off our jump lanes," she said, pointing at the hologram. "We're surrounded on all sides. If we engage directly, we'll be annihilated." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rico, shook his head. "We don't have enough firepower. They have 10-to-1 in ships." 10-to-1, Alara. Direct engagement is suicide." Alara clenched her fists. "Then we don't fight the way they expect. Humans have never been predictable. We survive because we adapt." She turned to the crew. "Prepare evasive maneuvers. Activate the magnetic nets and asteroid field traps. We're not going down quietly. Not today." As the human fleets darted like swift shadows through the asteroid belts surrounding the colony, Xylarian ships pursued relentlessly. The alien vessels moved with precision, cutting paths through space, their weapons glowing with lethal intent. But humans were creative. They maneuvered unpredictably, using the cluster's natural hazards to their advantage. One human ship, barely the size of a Xylarian destroyer, led a squadron through a dense asteroid field. Sensors jammed, weapons misfired, and Xylarian fighters collided with space rocks. Human ships zipped through the gaps, striking where the aliens least expected. "Impressive," Zira murmured, her lips curling in a rare hint of admiration. "But this ends tonight." On the planet below, civilians watched as distant flashes of light signaled the ongoing battle above. Children clutched their parents' hands, hiding behind protective domes. Farmers and workers, untrained in warfare, helped load emergency shuttles and activate planetary shields. Humanity's spirit, even in the face of annihilation, was undeniable. Alara directed a small strike team toward the Xylarian vanguard. Their mission was simple in description, impossible in execution. Disrupt the enemy flagship's shields long enough for the main fleet to escape. Every pilot knew the risks, yet every hand gripped controls with determination. The first skirmish erupted near the orbit of New Terra's largest moon. Xylarian ships fired plasma beams, slicing through space like deadly ribbons. Explosions illuminated the void, revealing spinning wreckage and small, daring human fighters darting between the chaos. Ilara's team launched magnetic mines, hurling them into the path of pursuing vessels. The mines detonated with precise timing, disabling engines and sending debris into the enemy lines. Human ingenuity shone as they combined limited technology with daring tactics, confusing an enemy that relied on perfect calculation. Still, the battle was not without cost. Several human ships were destroyed in brilliant flashes, their crews remembered in the solemn silence of space. Alara felt a pang of sorrow, but there was no time to mourn. Lives depended on her decisions now. Above, in her command chamber, Queen Zira's frustration grew. She had anticipated resistance, but not this level of cunning. They're unpredictable, chaotic. "Illogical," she hissed to her second-in-command, Admiral Vikal. "No calculation predicts this." "How do they do it?" Vikal, composed but concerned, replied, "Humans are creative, Your Majesty. Their strategies evolve with each strike. They're learning faster than our simulations predicted." Zira's golden eyes narrowed. "Then we adapt faster. Surround them. Crush them completely." But human ingenuity was relentless. Alara and her team had spotted a weak point in the Xylarian formation. The flagship relied on a central energy conduit that powered the surrounding fleet. A successful strike could temporarily disable the shields of a dozen ships. "Target the conduit," Alara ordered. "Rico, coordinate the secondary teams." We hit them simultaneously. Hit hard, hit fast, and then vanish. The humans moved with fluid precision. Small fighters swooped in, lasers converging on the conduit. Explosions rippled through the enemy flagship, and the surrounding ships faltered as energy fluctuations caused temporary blackouts in their shields. Human ships darted through the chaos, striking key points and then disappearing before the Xylarian fleet could fully react. Queen Zira's lips pressed into a thin line. Never before had a single species caused such disruption with such limited resources. She realized that brute force alone would not win this battle. "Prepare the ground forces," she commanded finally. "If the sky cannot be conquered, we will strike at the planet itself. New Terra will fall. On the surface, human defenders prepared for the worst. Cities were fortified, planetary shields reinforced, and evacuation routes mapped. Ilara knew they could not hold forever, but she also knew humans had something the Xylarians could never predict: courage, adaptability, and unity. As night fell over New Terra, the first ground assaults began. Dropships streaked from orbit, casting eerie light across the forests and plains. Xylarian soldiers, armed with advanced weapons and cloaked in near invisibility, spread across strategic points. Yet humans, though outnumbered, set clever traps and ambushes, using terrain and knowledge of their world to turn the invaders' strength against them. In a small village near the northern coast, a group of civilians armed with nothing more than energy rifles and improvised shields took down a squad of Xylarian scouts. In the mountains, engineers rigged explosive traps, toppling armored vehicles as they advanced. Even children in safe shelters helped relay messages and monitor sensor grids. Every person contributed, every act mattered. Back on the flagship, Queen Zira observed the planet through high-resolution sensors. Each time she believed victory was certain, the humans found a way to counter her expectations. Frustration and fascination warred within her. For the first time in her reign, she faced a foe that could not be crushed by fear or technology alone. Ilara, in the command room of Resolve, watched as her teams reported successful maneuvers. "We're not winning the war," she told her officers, "but we're proving we can fight. And sometimes proving you exist is half the battle." Her words resonated throughout the fleet. Humans did not retreat. Humans did not surrender. Every explosion, every daring maneuver, every clever trap was a testament to the human spirit, unbowed in the face of impossible odds. As the first part of the battle drew to a close, New Terra had survived the initial wave. The human fleet, though battered, was intact. The Xylarians had suffered unexpected losses. Queen Zira, for the first time, was forced to pause and reconsider. Her confidence in total victory wavered. "Prepare the next assault," she said softly, almost to herself. "We will crush them, but I will understand them first." And far below, on the planet's surface, humans looked to the stars, hearts pounding, yet eyes filled with determination. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded, but they were human. And as long as that word held meaning, hope remained alive. The stars of the Andromeda cluster continued to shine, indifferent to the war. Yet the light of humanity glimmered brightly against the darkness, promising that the fight had only just begun. The morning sun rose over New Terra, casting golden light across oceans, forests, and mountains. Smoke from the previous night's battle lingered in the skies, creating streaks of gray against the brightening blue. Despite the devastation above, humanity's spirit on the planet remained unbroken. People were tired, scared, but determined. They had survived the first wave of the Xylarian assault, and they were preparing for the next. Admiral Ilara Dane stood on the observation deck of the Resolve, her eyes scanning the horizon. The human fleet, though battered, had regrouped. Her officers worked tirelessly, repairing damaged ships, distributing supplies, and planning their next maneuvers. Admiral, called Lieutenant Rico, pointing at the holographic map. "The Xylarians are regrouping. They're sending smaller squadrons to scout our positions and disrupt our supply lines. They'll try to predict our moves." Ilara nodded, her jaw tight. "Let them try. We don't fight like they expect. Humans survive because we think differently. We adapt." She turned to her officers, her voice steady and inspiring. "They outnumber us, yes. They outgun us, yes. But they have never faced our ingenuity before. Every trap we set, every maneuver we make, they will not see coming. We survive, we fight, and we win in ways they cannot understand." The first sign of Xylarian scouts appeared near the orbit of New Terra's largest moon. Small alien vessels darted between asteroids, scanning for weaknesses. Their sensors were precise, their movements exact. Yet even these perfect machines were no match for the unpredictable humans. Ilara directed a small squadron led by Captain Lyra Venn to intercept. Lyra's ships were smaller, faster, and more maneuverable than the enemy's. She smiled grimly as she addressed her pilots. "Remember what we practiced," she said. "Use the asteroids, use the debris, use your minds. We are humans. They do not understand us. Let's make them pay for underestimating us." The squadron darted into the asteroid belt. Alien vessels followed, firing precision lasers. Lyra's team twisted and turned, weaving through the rocks like dancers in a deadly ballet. Human ships released decoy drones, confusing the Xylarian targeting systems. A well-timed electromagnetic pulse disabled several of the alien ship's sensors, sending them spinning uncontrollably into the field. From the command bridge of Resolve, Alara watched the operation unfold. Her eyes sparkled with pride. Humans were not just surviving, they were creating opportunities from chaos. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, civilians were not idle. Engineers, farmers, teachers, and students worked together to fortify cities and prepare defenses. They constructed barricades, repurposed vehicles into armored transports, and set up sensor networks using whatever technology they could find. Each person, regardless of age or skill, contributed to the defense of their world. In the Northern Highlands, a group of engineers led by Dr. Soren Kale prepared a daring plan. They would use the planet's magnetic field to disrupt the Xylarian communication network. It was risky, but if successful, it could blind a portion of the enemy fleet. Once we activate the field, their ships will lose coordination, Soren explained to his team. It's temporary, but it might give Alara the edge she needs. A young technician, Mira, nodded nervously. And if it fails? Soren smiled gently. Then we try again. We are human. We do not give up. Back in orbit, the Xylarians adjusted their tactics. Queen Zyra had observed the humans' resilience with increasing fascination. She had expected resistance, but never such unrelenting creativity. They adapt too quickly, she told Admiral Vikal. Every strategy we predict is countered. They learn faster than we anticipate. How is this possible? Vikal hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Your Majesty, humans have something we do not. Their survival is driven not only by logic or calculation, but by courage, determination, and unpredictability. Their spirit. It fuels them in ways our technology cannot match. Zyra's eyes narrowed. Then we must understand them. We must observe them closely. Only then can we destroy them completely. Alara, sensing the rising intensity of the enemy, decided it was time to strike back proactively. She gathered her commanders in the strategy room. We cannot just defend, she said firmly. We must create opportunities. There are weak points in their formations, gaps they do not guard. If we can hit them smartly and quickly, we can disrupt their plans and buy more time for the planet. Captain Lyra leaned forward. We can use the asteroid belts to our advantage again. The Xylarians rely on sensors that cannot detect rapid maneuvers through dense debris. We hit, then vanish before they can respond. Alara smiled. Exactly. Human adaptability is our greatest weapon. They planned for perfection. We create it from chaos. The fleet moved like a living organism, each ship executing its part of the plan. Small, fast human fighters darted through asteroid fields, targeting key Xylarian vessels. Larger capital ships released electromagnetic pulses, disabling shields for critical seconds. Every strike was precise, every move coordinated, yet impossible to predict for the enemy. On the planet's surface, the civilians watched the first reports of success with cautious hope. Explosions in orbit lit the skies like fireworks. People cheered quietly, feeling that their efforts mattered. Every engineer, soldier, and volunteer contributed to the victory, proving that unity and determination were stronger than technology alone. Even children helped. Relaying messages, monitoring sensors, and keeping morale high, families worked together to repair shelters and aid the injured. Every small act became part of the larger fight, a testament to the human spirit. But the Xylarians were not defeated yet. They regrouped, launching elite strike teams to challenge the humans' advances. These squads were fast, precise, and ruthless, trained to eliminate threats without hesitation. Yet even these forces found themselves disoriented by human unpredictability. One squadron attempted a frontal assault on the human fleet's repair stations. Lyra's pilots anticipated the attack, drawing the alien forces into a trap. Hidden mines, electromagnetic pulses, and clever maneuvers turned the Xylarians' strength against them. Ships that were thought unstoppable were disabled or destroyed. From her vantage point, Queen Zyra observed the chaos, her admiration growing with each human maneuver. So, this is humanity, she whispered. Fragile yet unbreakable. Small yet mighty, they are extraordinary. Meanwhile, on the ground, Soren's magnetic field project activated. Pulses spread through the atmosphere, interfering with Xylarian communications. Alien ships lost coordination, some even colliding with debris or each other. Human fighters seized the opportunity, striking key points before the enemy could regroup. Alara watched, her heart swelling with pride. Humans had done what no one thought possible. They had turned the tide in small, clever ways. Victory was far from assured, but for the first time the humans were no longer just surviving. They were influencing the battle. Yet even in these moments of triumph, caution remained. Ilara knew the Xylarians would adapt, that new strategies would emerge, and that the next wave would be even more dangerous. She gathered her officers once more. "We've shown them we can fight," she said, "but they will come back stronger. We must prepare not just for survival, but to keep proving that humans cannot be predicted, cannot be broken." Her officers nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity's fight was far from over, but their determination, ingenuity, and courage had already made a mark on the galaxy. As the sun set over New Terra, painting the skies in shades of orange and crimson, the human fleet rested, repaired, and prepared for the challenges ahead. The civilians, too, recovered and reinforced their defenses. Everywhere humans worked together, each action, no matter how small, contributing to the survival of their world. And far above, in her flagship, Queen Zira contemplated the resilience of the species she had sought to conquer. Humans were more than opponents, they were a force unlike any she had ever encountered. She whispered to herself, a mixture of frustration and fascination in her voice. Humans, such tiny creatures yet capable of wonders. I will see how far their spirit can stretch. I will see what makes them unstoppable. In the quiet moments that followed, both sides prepared for the next stage of the war. The Xylarians determined to crush what they could not yet comprehend, and the humans, united and unyielding, ready to fight with everything they had, knowing that their greatest weapon was the human spirit itself. And so, the battle for New Terra continued, each passing moment a testament to the resilience, courage, and ingenuity of humanity, proof that even when surrounded and outnumbered, humans could defy the impossible. The battle over New Terra had reached a critical point. The first assaults of the Xylarian Empire had been met with human resilience, but now the war was entering a new phase. The humans, though outnumbered and outgunned, had learned from their early encounters. Every skirmish had taught them something: how the Xylarians coordinated where their weaknesses lay, and how to exploit gaps that even the most advanced sensors could not detect. Admiral Ilara Dane stood on the bridge of the Resolve, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the battlefield. She could see the enemy's formation shifting. The Xylarians had deployed a fleet of cruisers to blockade the southern approach, while smaller squadrons patrolled the orbital belts. But their movements were too rigid, too predictable. Humanity thrived in chaos. The Xylarians struggled with it. "Ilara, we've identified a weak point," said Lieutenant Rico, pointing to a cluster of alien vessels near the edge of the formation. "Their shield frequency synchronization is slightly delayed when the cruisers realign. If we strike fast, we can take down 2 cruisers before they recover." Ilara smiled faintly. "Good. Prepare the strike teams. Timing is everything. Precision and speed. Humans adapt, and we will use it to our advantage." Captain Lyra Venn, leading one of the strike teams, nodded sharply. "We'll take them down. They won't know what hit them." The strike teams launched, weaving through asteroid fields and debris clouds. The Xylarians, confident in their calculations, were caught off guard. The human fighters moved unpredictably, splitting into smaller units, creating diversions and striking from multiple angles. Electromagnetic pulses temporarily disabled enemy shields, allowing targeted attacks on vulnerable points. Explosions rippled through the enemy formation. 2 cruisers were disabled before the Xylarian commanders could react. Smaller ships panicked as communication delays caused confusion, and human fighters exploited every hesitation. On the ground, the humans were preparing for the next phase of the conflict. Cities that had been damaged during the initial attacks were being rebuilt with incredible speed. Engineers, soldiers, and civilians worked together, fortifying buildings, setting traps, and preparing weapons. Even the youngest volunteers helped, relaying messages, monitoring sensors, and keeping morale high. "Humans adapt so quickly," observed one Xylarian scout, watching the battlefield from a remote sensor probe. "Their resourcefulness, it defies logic." Queen Zira was equally intrigued. From her command bridge aboard the flagship Eclipse of Dawn, she studied the humans' actions. She had underestimated them. Their ability to learn from each encounter, to turn desperation into opportunity, was unlike anything she had encountered in her centuries of conquest. "They are remarkable," she admitted quietly, almost to herself. "I must understand them or we cannot win." Back in orbit, Ilara had called for a coordinated strike against the main enemy fleet. The plan was risky. Human ships would act as decoys, drawing the Xylarians into a trap set by the fleet's larger capital ships and orbital cannons. Timing and precision were crucial. Everyone knows their role, Ilara reminded her commanders. Do not hesitate. Trust each other. Humanity has survived impossible odds before, and we will survive this. The decoy ships darted forward, appearing vulnerable. Xylarian forces, eager to crush the humans once and for all, pursued without caution. As they moved, the larger human ships activated their weapons. Magnetic nets ensnared alien cruisers, while synchronized laser strikes targeted their engines and shields. Chaos erupted among the Xylarian lines. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and smaller squadrons were forced to retreat. The humans, using tactics no computer could calculate, had created a battlefield that favored ingenuity over brute force. On the planet below, human defenders continued their clever operations. Using the terrain to their advantage, they set up ambushes for Xylarian ground forces. Traps, camouflaged bunkers, and improvised weapons allowed small human teams to hold off superior enemy numbers. In the northern forests, Sergeant Kira Solis led a small unit against a squad of elite Xylarian soldiers. Outnumbered and outgunned, her team used guerrilla tactics, striking from hidden positions and disappearing before the aliens could retaliate. Every move was calculated yet unpredictable, a blend of instinct and strategy. Kira whispered into her communicator, "Remember, they expect power and precision. Give them unpredictability. Strike where they least expect it." The squad executed the plan flawlessly, disabling the elite soldiers' advanced equipment and forcing them to retreat. Word of these successes spread quickly, boosting morale across the planet. Civilians and soldiers alike felt the power of human ingenuity and unity. Meanwhile, back on the flagship, Queen Zira had begun to consider a new approach. She realized that sheer firepower would not be enough. Humans could survive, adapt, and even counter overwhelming attacks. To conquer them, she would need to understand their motivations, their fears, and their creativity. "They survive because they care," she said softly. "They fight for each other, for their homes, for their lives. This is something my simulations cannot predict." Admiral Vikal, standing beside her, frowned. "So what is the plan, Your Majesty?" Zyra's eyes gleamed with a mixture of determination and curiosity. "Observe, learn, then strike. But this time, with insight. Humanity's strength is their unpredictability. To defeat them, we must anticipate it, or perhaps we must respect it." As the humans pressed their advantage in space, Ilara and her commanders noticed a significant opportunity. The Xylarian fleet, though larger, was beginning to show signs of fatigue. Their formation was stretched, their communication strained, and their confidence shaken. A coordinated strike could cripple the enemy's main force and shift the momentum decisively. "Prepare the orbital cannons," Ilara instructed. "Target the largest cruisers. Use the decoy fleet to lure them into range. Timing must be perfect." The humans executed the plan with remarkable precision. Decoy ships lured the Xylarian cruisers into a deadly corridor between asteroid belts. Once in position, orbital cannons fired and magnetic nets immobilized the alien vessels. Human fighters swooped in to disable shields and engines, striking with a combination of cunning and bravery. Explosions lit the sky as the alien cruisers were destroyed, their wreckage scattering across the battlefield. The Xylarians were stunned. Their numbers and technology could not compensate for the humans' ability to create opportunities from chaos. Queen Zyra's frustration was evident. For the first time, she had faced a species that not only survived her attacks but outperformed her expectations. She realized that humanity's greatest strength was not in their ships, their weapons, or even their numbers. It was in their spirit, their adaptability, and their courage. On the planet below, celebrations were muted but heartfelt. Humans had inflicted a significant blow to the invaders, proving that even in the darkest moments they could fight back. Civilians continued to contribute, rebuilding defenses and aiding the wounded. Every person played a role, showing that the strength of humanity lay in unity. Ilara, observing the battlefield, allowed herself a brief smile. They had done more than survive. They had turned the tide of the conflict, showing that even against overwhelming odds, humans could prevail. But the war was far from over. The Xylarians, intelligent and relentless, would adapt to these setbacks. Queen Zira's curiosity had turned into determination. She would not allow defeat to stand. The humans, though victorious in small battles, would need to continue relying on ingenuity, courage, and unity to survive what was to come. As night fell over New Terra, the planet glowed with the lights of repair and preparation. Fires from the previous battles burned in the distance, yet the human spirit shone brighter than ever. The fleet, though battered, remained operational. The cities, though scarred, were defended and fortified. Humanity had proven that they could not be easily defeated. Above the battlefield, Queen Zira watched silently. For the first time in her life, she felt a mixture of respect and apprehension for a species she had underestimated. Humans, she whispered. So small yet so formidable. I will see how far their spirit can stretch, and I will prepare for the next stage. And far below on the planet's surface, humans rested, repaired, and prepared. Their victories were small but significant, each one a step toward reclaiming their world. They had faced the mightiest fleet in the galaxy, and had not only survived but had proven that courage, ingenuity, and unity could rival the greatest technology. The turning tide had begun, and the galaxy would soon see that humans were far more than just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. The sky above New Terra was a storm of smoke, light, and energy. The Xylarian fleet, though battered, had regrouped and pressed harder than ever. Their ships hung in formation above the planet like a dark cloud, casting shadows over the green continents below. The humans had survived the earlier assaults, but now the enemy sought to end their resistance once and for all. On the bridge of the flagship Resolve, Admiral Ilara Dane watched the approaching fleet. Every eye on the bridge was fixed on the display, tension heavy in the air. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, yet Ilara's mind raced with possibilities. Humans had survived because they did not rely solely on firepower. They relied on creativity, adaptability, and unity. Admiral, called Lieutenant Rico, the Queen herself is leading the assault. Sensors confirm that Eclipse of Dawn has entered orbit. She's preparing a ground strike. This is unlike anything we've faced before. Ilara swallowed, feeling the weight of the moment. Queen Zira, the ruler of the Xylarians, had never personally set foot on a human planet. Her presence was a signal. The Xylarians would not accept delay or compromise. They believe they can break us with power, Ilara said quietly. Let's show them why humans survive. On the surface, civilians and soldiers alike prepared for the inevitable clash. Every building, canyon, and plateau was turned into a defensive position. Engineers rigged magnetic traps while militia units set up ambush points. Every person, from the youngest scout to the oldest veteran, understood their role. Humanity's strength was in its unity, and every individual contributed to the defense of their world. Meanwhile, Queen Zira descended from orbit in a specialized assault ship, landing near the northern highlands where human resistance had been strongest. The ground trembled as her craft touched the soil, her golden eyes surveying the terrain with calm precision. She was surrounded by elite troops, each one trained to follow her orders without question. Yet she sensed that brute force alone might not be enough. From her command post, Ilara watched the landing. She knew the Queen's presence could be terrifying, but she also knew humans were not easily intimidated. We've faced impossible odds before, she told her officers. This is just another challenge. Humanity fights when the world demands it. We will not yield. Zira stepped from her craft, her figure tall and regal. Her troops fanned out immediately, establishing defensive positions and scanning for human forces. But even her best soldiers were unsettled by what they found. Humans were everywhere and nowhere at once. Hidden bunkers, camouflaged vehicles, and ambush points awaited them at every turn. In the northern forest, Sergeant Kira Solis led a small team to intercept the Queen's advance. Remember, she whispered to her squad, they expect power and precision. We give them chaos, we strike where they least expect it. Her unit moved silently through the dense forest, tracking the elite Xylarian troops. When the first patrol appeared, they triggered hidden magnetic traps, immobilizing advanced vehicles. Explosions and flashes created confusion, allowing human fighters to strike from multiple directions. Every action was precise yet unpredictable, a combination of human cunning and courage. Zira observed from a vantage point atop a ridge. Her brow furrowed in frustration. Humans had turned the landscape into a weapon. Every tree, every rock, every hill became part of their strategy. She realized that if she wished to conquer them, she would need more than technology and soldiers. She would need to understand the human mind itself. Alara coordinated multiple squads across the battlefield. Her plan was to funnel the Queen's forces into areas where humans held natural advantages. Using terrain, ambushes, and traps, she created zones of conflict where the Xylarians' numbers could not dominate. As the two sides clashed, humans demonstrated remarkable ingenuity. A small group of engineers had rigged the forest with hidden pulse generators that disrupted the Xylarians' communications. Soldiers moved in perfect sync, striking when the enemy was vulnerable and retreating before counterattacks could reach them. Zyra's elite troops pressed forward, but every advance was met with resistance that seemed impossible for such a small force. The Queen's frustration grew. She had anticipated human resilience but not their ability to transform despair into strategy. From the battlefield, Kira's unit struck again, using natural terrain and timing to outmaneuver elite soldiers. One by one, the Queen's squads fell into traps or were forced to retreat. It was a lesson in patience, creativity, and courage, and humans thrived in it. In the command center, Alara received updates from multiple squads. Each report told the same story. Humans were using unpredictability as their weapon. They had not only survived against overwhelming numbers, they had created openings that could turn the tide of battle. Alara knew that the Queen's presence on the battlefield signaled the highest stakes yet. Zyra would personally test humans' limits, seeking to break their will. But humans had faced despair before, and their spirit never faltered. Zyra, frustrated by repeated setbacks, finally spoke aloud to her remaining troops. Humanity fights with courage, with creativity, with unity, but even the strongest spirit can be broken. Push forward! Show them that resistance is useless. The humans, hearing nothing but the chaos of battle, continued their coordinated efforts. They moved as one, anticipating enemy attacks, improvising when necessary, and using every advantage the terrain offered. Every civilian who contributed, every soldier who risked their life, strengthened the human front. Alara watched the Queen's forces falter. She knew that strategy, timing, and courage were now more important than firepower. Focus on coordination, she ordered. Exploit their hesitation. The Queen is here. Every action counts. The battle reached a critical moment when a small squad of humans using a combination of traps and feints surrounded the Queen's elite guard. The Xylarians had superior numbers and weapons, but the humans' use of terrain, misdirection, and timing gave them the advantage. Every move was calculated yet unpredictable, human instinct combined with careful planning. Queen Zyra found herself observing the battlefield more closely than ever. Her troops were powerful, but they were outmaneuvered by sheer human ingenuity. She realized that technology alone could not win this fight. Humans fought with something that machines could not replicate: the drive to survive, to protect, and to adapt. Alara coordinated a final push, directing squads to create a strategic encirclement of the Queen's forces. Magnetic traps, pulse generators, and ambush teams converged. Zyra's elite troops, though highly trained, found themselves immobilized or distracted by human ingenuity. The battlefield was chaotic, but every human action had a purpose. Civilians contributed by operating communication networks, monitoring enemy movement, and providing essential intelligence. Soldiers executed daring maneuvers, striking from unexpected angles. Every act reinforced the unity and determination that defined humanity. Finally, Queen Zyra stood at the center of the engagement, her elite guard surrounded. For the first time, she faced a situation that pure strength and advanced technology could not resolve. The humans had anticipated her every move, adapting to her strategies and turning the environment into a weapon. Zyra's golden eyes swept over the battlefield. She could see the determination in every human face, the courage, the willpower, the unity. For centuries, she had conquered civilizations using force and strategy. But humanity was different. Their resistance was not just survival. It was hope made tangible. Alara, observing from a nearby ridge, felt a mixture of relief and resolve. They had done the impossible. Humans had taken control of the battlefield not by brute force, but by using their minds, hearts, and courage together. The Queen was surrounded, facing a challenge she could not simply overpower. For a long moment, silence hung in the air. The Xylarians, usually unshakable, hesitated. Humans stood firm, their eyes bright with determination. The battlefield had become a testament to what human spirit, ingenuity, and unity could achieve, even against the mightiest empire in the galaxy. And in that silence, Queen Zira realized something profound. This was not the end of the battle, but it was a turning point. Humanity was not just surviving. They were proving that even the smallest and most underestimated species could face the greatest odds and endure. "Impressive," she whispered, her voice carrying over the comms in a tone that mixed frustration and admiration. "Humans, they are unlike anything I have ever faced." Ilara, feeling the weight of the moment, knew that the true victory had not yet come, but humanity had shown its strength. They had held their ground, outsmarted the enemy, and survived a challenge that seemed impossible. The battle was far from over, but the Queen's presence on New Terra had revealed something critical. Humans fought not just for survival, but for each other, their home and their freedom. That was a force no alien fleet, no matter how powerful, could easily conquer. And as night fell over the battlefield, the fires of conflict reflecting off the stars above, both sides understood that this war would be remembered. For humans, it was a testament to the power of spirit, courage, and unity. For the Xylarians, it was the first glimpse of a species that could not be easily crushed. A species that, in the face of overwhelming odds, refused to bow.